Imagine, just for a second, a world where everyone suddenly discovers their voice. The whole world literally begins to speak, to sing, to shout. But in the midst of this deafening new noise, the most famous and beloved man on earth chooses a profound, deliberate silence. It's a deeply melancholic yet totally beautiful image, isn't it? Well, welcome to our latest explainer. Today we're looking at a true pinnacle of cinematic history, Charlie Chaplin's 1931 masterpiece, City Lights. We're going to explore the warm, dramatic, and intensely affectionate story of an artist who held onto his heart right when the rest of the world was losing its mind to technology. Just a quick note before we really get going, this video is for educational purposes and created under fair use principles. Okay, so the story of City Lights is really the story of Charlie Chaplin's absolute boldest artistic gamble. You have to understand, this was a time when the very foundation of Hollywood was shaking. And Chaplin? He decided to place a massive bet, not on the future of machinery, but on the timeless nature of the human soul. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, Defying the Sound Era, the arrival of the Talkies. By the late 1920s, Hollywood was being completely revolutionized. On one side, you had the loud, totally chaotic arrival of sound films. Studios were suddenly dealing with these clunky microphones, actors who frankly couldn't project their voices, and dialogue that slowed all the physical action down to an absolute crawl. But on the other side stood Chaplin, entirely steadfast in his dedication to the universal language of pantomime. Chaplin was, well, pretty cynical about this new medium. He firmly believed that talking pictures lacked the delicate artistry of silent films. And more importantly, he knew his character, the Little Tramp, was a global icon precisely because he didn't speak. To give him a voice in English would instantly alienate millions of fans around the world who felt the Tramp belonged to them personally. Chaplin's stance was rock solid. He famously stated, "Dialogue may or may not have a place in comedy. Dialogue does not have a place in the sort of comedies I make." It was just unthinkable for the Tramp to talk. The very first word he uttered would basically strip away his universal appeal and transform him into another person entirely. He'd no longer be everyman, he would just be a man. And so, in complete defiance of the entire industry, Chaplin set out to make a silent film. Let's move to Section 2, the price of perfection, the agony of creation. Because making a silent film in a talking world wasn't just a professional risk, it actually became a deep personal agony for him. Production on his new silent masterpiece began in late 1928, and it was anything but smooth. 21. It took 21 agonizing months of production to bring City Lights to life. By the standards of the day, when films were turned out in just a matter of weeks, this was literally an eternity. Chaplin was carrying the entire weight of the silent film era on his shoulders, and he later confessed that he worked himself into a neurotic state of wanting perfection. Every single gesture, every tiny glance, it all had to be utterly flawless. Chaplin's methods were uniquely his own. Because he personally funded his films through United Artists, he answered to absolutely no one. This financial independence allowed him to demand absolute perfection, shooting limitless takes until a scene felt exactly right. If he felt uninspired, he would simply halt production for days, keeping the whole studio waiting until the muse returned. But here is the most fascinating detail. While he fiercely defied spoken dialogue, he actually did embrace sound technology for one very specific purpose. He used it to compose and record a beautiful, synchronized musical score for the entire film himself. He didn't want the actors to speak, but he absolutely wanted the music to guide the audience's emotions perfectly. Which brings us to Section 3, A Vision in the Dark, Sight, Blindness, and Society. So the crucial point is, what was the story that required such excruciating dedication? It brings us right to the emotional and philosophical core of the film. The story follows the Tramp, impoverished and at the very bottom of the social ladder, who falls deeply in love with a beautiful, blind flower girl. Chaplin weaves this incredible, poignant contrast throughout the whole film. On one hand, we have the seeing society, the affluent, urban upper class of America. They have physical sight, yet they're morally blind, superficial, and entirely dismissive of the Tramp. On the other hand, we have the blind flower girl. She's impoverished and struggling, lacking physical sight, yet she possesses a deep, pure emotional sight. She's literally the only one in the entire city who recognizes the Tramp's true heart and dignity. It's a profound irony, isn't it? The seeing society rejected him, but the blind girl truly saw him. To build this narrative, Chaplin masterfully interlocks comedy and pathos. Every single gag serves the emotional weight of the story. Think of the famous prize fight sequence. It's an exquisitely funny, perfectly choreographed boxing match. But the comedy is rooted in desperate tragedy. The tramp is enduring brutal physical humiliation purely to win the money needed to pay for the flower girl's sight-saving operation. The comedy and the love story depend entirely on one another. This leads us straight into Section 4, A Universal Language, the 1931 premiere. After years of grueling labor, City Lights held its triumphant Los Angeles premiere on January 20, 1931. The atmosphere was absolutely electric, and walking down the aisle, standing right beside Chaplin as his special guest, was none other than his close friend, the brilliant physicist Albert Einstein. And this brilliantly illustrates the magic of that night. During their time together, Einstein turned to Chaplin and offered this deeply moving praise. "What I admire most about your art is its universality. You do not say a word, and yet the world understands you." Einstein recognized that Chaplin had achieved something physics just couldn't, a direct, wordless connection to the human soul. Chaplin, of course, never missing a comedic beat, delivered this witty and affectionate reply. "It's true, but your fame is even greater. The world admires you when no one understands you." It's such a beautiful exchange, right? It perfectly highlights the deep mutual respect between these two iconic figures, both of whom basically bent the universe to their unique visions. Ultimately, the film was an unmitigated triumph. City Lights grossed over $3 million, completely defying the sound craze, and proving that audiences absolutely still hungered for silent pantomime. It was hailed by critics everywhere. James Agee later described its final scene, where the flower girl, her sight finally restored, realizes the ragged tramp is her savior, as the greatest piece of acting and the highest moment in movies. It is no wonder at all that City Lights remained Chaplin's personal favorite of all his films for the rest of his life. It really is an intricately formed, timeless masterpiece. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to ponder today. In our incredibly loud, digitally saturated modern world, has cinema, and perhaps society itself, lost that universal emotional connection that Chaplin fought so desperately hard to preserve in silence? It's a question definitely worth reflecting on the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by the noise of the world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Please do not forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel Famous Lives Bio. See you next time.